Hello, Dr. Alvaro. This is Noah Demulin,
And Sebastian DiPietro.
and we're here to show you our bonus assignment submission 2. So, where we last left off, we had a 3D looking line, a bunch of fish kind of rotating in a circle. Since then, we have implemented some new aesthetics, some moving around, and some slight collision detection, as well as working on bokeh, but again, Sebastian has to get out on the bus, so we'll record this part now with Sebastian, and then I'll be trying to finish up the bokeh part. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Bloom, but we are going to take a crack at explaining it and how we would implement it later on. So let's go and see the first thing. So as you can see here, we have a bit of collision with this first fish and the line. The way we did this was quite simple and a bit of a cheap way, but basically if we go into the code and look up collision, we basically just have your standard spherical bounding boxes where we compare the X and the Y. It's not in a 3D collision, but it still gets the job done. And when we do that, we see that we will change the color of the fish red. So if we go back, you can see that again. That when we get the rod close enough to it, it flashes red. And if we get away, it goes pink again. Probably should have used the green one, but you know, it's working. So as well, the changes we made since the last one is, actually, Sebastian, do you want to talk about that one?
So the changes, visually, we added in new models, so a new rod, new fish, give them more of an 8-bit pixelated aesthetic, make it look more fitting to the game style.
Mm-hmm. And although it wasn't required, we wanted to get box blur back in because we didn't get it, unfortunately, implemented 2 days ago, but we do have it now, and I think it actually has quite a nice Atari 2600 look to it now because of the blur. So from there, I believe that is it for those two parts of visualization. At the moment we are trying to get Bloom, so I'll be changing around something as Sebastian kind of explains how blur works.
Yes, so Bloom...
Sorry, Bloom.
Yeah. So Bloom, it's a lighting effect used to create a glow or a bleeding light kind of effect in games. It gives a visually appealing look, as it's usually hard on a monitor to tell the light difference between objects. So Bloom kind of gives the source an extra bit of power or light. So how one would go about implementing Bloom, first they'd take 2 rendered images of the scene that they want to implement Bloom, and they would apply a blur to one of the images, preferably a Gaussian blur. Now a Gaussian blur uses is it in a graph form. It has a bell-shaped curve. Sorry.
No problem. Basically, the Gaussian blur is a more refined form of blurring. However, it's not mandatory, but it's quite needed. Or not quite needed. It's sort of beneficial. Anyway, the purpose of the blur is to kind of do a cheap render of light without actually making any lighting calculations, and it's doing that by just sort of meshing the two blurs, of what you have, the blur and the bright pass together to make this effect. So unfortunately we didn't have that now, but I thought that, hey, might as well give it a go to try something different. What I did was I actually changed the ambient intensity, and still kept the blur on. We could even make the kernels a little bit blurrier, however, I just didn't think about that. But to try to simulate it, we basically did a blur and a very ambient light, because the ambient light will be emitting more light because of it. It does do this strange color thing, but hopefully it gets something across. Alrighty, the final thing that we're trying to get implemented, as you can see over here, is bokeh, but that is not going great so far. It's only 9:30 at night, so I'm going to keep trying on that one. And as for shadow mapping, we will be showing that to you hopefully on Wednesday, depending. Alright, so since Pascal, that is all for now, but hopefully we will be able to show you bokeh later tonight. Thank you.